Everybody, it's one of my favorite times of the month, I guess, which sounds weird, but Stacy's been coming on sometimes more than once a month, even. So when Stacy is here, it makes me very happy, as you can see. Cheryl is not here with us today simply because she's doing a presentation for her company in like just a few minutes. So everybody send out the good Cheryl does awesome in her presentation vibes. I know she will, but sometimes she gets nervous about them. And so Stacy is my support specialist. Only mine. No, she's other people's too, but I'm a Taurus, so you're either mine or you're not. And I adore Stacy, and we were even just chatting about fun things before we started today. So what that means is when I went through the McDougall 12-day program in July, and one of the reasons I liked it was because of the extended support. So you get 12 days and they don't just go, swoosh, go baby bird out of the nest. We'll see you the next 12 days. No, nothing like that. So Stacy or Tiffany, who is the other current support specialist, who knows, you may be watching this replay and there might be more. You never know. You see them every day for the 12 days, and then it's every week for a number of weeks that Stacy will remind me of that I've finished.
8. Oh no.
And
yeah, that's right. 8. I was like, whoops. 8 weeks.
So I'm like, oh, my little brain went, you don't know that number, as I was telling you that. And I was like, well. And then I get to see her monthly. And actually, we just talked yesterday, which was great. So that was our December talk. And we have, I think, because don't we go all the way through June since I was in the July?
Until July. So your last one will be in July.
Ooh. So that's like 12 months of support. No, 13 months
like 13.
13 months of support. I tried to add. It didn't work out very well for me. So Stacy, do you want to kind of introduce yourself to those who may be new to the McDougall program? And if you guys see me talk about the Starch solution, that is like, I think of it this way, Stacy, and maybe you can explain it differently. To me, of the Dr. McDougall eating plans, because I hate to say diet because it's not a diet, it's a lifestyle change, is the Starch solution, which is the easiest one and the one that Stacy recommended that I start with and we're sticking with. And then there's like a couple of other variations within, right?
Yeah. Well, people use all the different terms differently, so it is hard to nail down what exactly does that mean, the Starch solution. The Starch solution is the name of one of Dr. McDougall's most popular books, and it is a fantastic book. It's definitely the one out of all of them that I usually recommend because I feel like it's the most comprehensive, it's the most recent to just really explain the why behind the diet that we prescribe. Now, when you say that the word diet bothers you, I totally get it. It bothers me too. However, everybody on the face of the planet, people and animals, are following a diet of some form. And so your diet in this case just refers to what you eat. Okay. There's high carbohydrate diets. There's low carbohydrate diets. There's carnivore diets. There's vegetarian diets, vegan diets. And I think let's take back the word diet because I just want you to know in this case, when I am referring to the McDougall diet, I am never talking about a hunger strike or a hunger diet that you're going to be miserable on and you're going to waste away and be unhappy. I am talking about the way that you're going to eat for the rest of your life. And so the Starch solution outlines the McDougall diet, the McDougall way of eating, which is the way that we recommend across the board to virtually everyone, barring any, unusual dietary concerns that they have like allergies or sensitivities. But the main McDougall diet is one that you are meant to be able to follow for the rest of your life and through pregnancy and through nursing and through old age and all of that, you should be able to adhere to just the regular McDougall diet. Now, we have a couple of iterations of the McDougall diet for certain considerations. One of them that you may have heard of is maximum weight loss, and that one is meant to be followed when people are just trying to lose weight as efficiently as they possibly can, as quickly as they can. It's meant to give you maximum results for your effort. Mary's Mini is another iteration of the McDougall diet. That one's used a little bit differently. Yes, it does lead to weight loss by its nature because you're eating only very low calorie density foods during the course of your Mary's Mini that you run. But it is more for resetting folks when people feel like they've been off plan or they've been, having a really hard time adhering to the regular McDougall diet, or they just need just a change, a little change up, a little something extra. A lot of times they'll do a Mary's Mini to just sort of reset their taste buds, reset, their expectations of how much food needs to just be knocking their socks off breakfast, lunch, and dinner. It's just a very simple, just very easy to follow, easily taking out a lot of decisions about food. So anyway, I just wanted to throw that out there, that the McDougall diet at large is sort of what is outlined in the Starch Solution book, but he also does definitely touch on maximum weight loss there in the Starch Solution book as well.
I love that. And I love the way you're talking about that. Of course, I'm over here getting caught doing some stuff on the side. Everyone wants to know what these are because that's why I brought them out. And I'll show you from up here too. Baby? Come on. Maybe not. Well, here you go. These are Okara chicken nuggets, and we're going to make them tonight in Kathy's Cooking Club. I'm putting a link in. Look, if you're watching live, watch for that to happen in the chat. I'll put it in the comments as well later. But, so, enough of that. The reason I don't like diet, the word diet, is the way that we tend to misuse it and abuse ourselves with it. So I love what you're saying. Because a lot of times, too, a diet is often used to imply something like, people don't expect to be on the keto diet for the rest of their lives, right? Because I have lots of feelings about that. But anyhow, how many days can you eat fat bombs is all I want to know. Because even before I did McDougall, some keto stuff really creeps me out. That is personal. I know no factual information about the keto diet, disclaimer. But I feel like when Cheryl and I have been talking about this, and when we do talk about it, our biggest shift was, this isn't something we're doing for 12 days or 3 months or 6 months or a year. We are making it so it's going to work with our lifetime. And I think that that's something that's super helpful for people. And I know we had a couple of things we wanted to talk about today, but I was also wondering, a lot of times I get questions or comments that to eat on the Starch Solution is so very hard. And I'm sorry for the people who feel that way, because it's not hard. In fact, it's easier than eating regular food, like standard American diet food, in a way, because I feel like the lowest common denominator of McDougall is you have a starch and a vegetable. That could be a baked potato. You can make 5 baked potatoes and have a bag of frozen vegetables, and your dinners are done. To the point you can have, and Stacy and I talked about these, and these are pretty much compliant. And I still say pretty much compliant because that's who I am. Stacy said that she felt like they were compliant. But I'm still me, and I don't want to mislead. There's a little bit of flaxseed in there, but for the whole thing, it's not so much. So you can also then have homemade chicken nuggies and fries. Because if you guys watch me on Chef AJ, and Stacey, I don't even think I told you this, I got a new food processor, the Breville Peel and Dice, and it dices stuff, and it makes French fries. Oh my God, it's the coolest. It's ridiculously expensive. but I'm going to use it every day till I die. So I feel okay about it. But I could see making some French fries and doing now. That isn't something I would want to eat every night. This has okara in it. It has soy pulp. You could put other things in here. You could even make that, but I would not feel guilty if we ate okara chicken nuggets and air fried French fries once a week for the rest of my life. And so I think people see it as I can never go out to eat. I can never eat with friends. These are things that people have said to me. I'm always going to have to cook a big meal. So I'm going to let you kind of speak to all that in any way that you would like to.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I want to acknowledge that it is hard. It's hard when you're transitioning away from whatever way you were already eating, because a lot of times the way that we're eating is the way that we've eaten since we were born, and it was the way we were raised and the way that the community that we live in eats. And so changing that and changing what, even just what your conception of a meal is challenging. So many of us, most of us probably grew up where meat was the center of our meal. The meat was the entree, and then you would have two sides and a roll, or, two sides and a salad, or whatever it was in your house. And I can still remember, thank goodness, and I hope I never forget, when I first was told, no, actually, the center of your meal is a potato, and then you can have a side or no sides or 10 sides or however many sides you want. Basically, your whole plate's going to be sides. There will be no meat. I just remember going, what? Like, that makes no sense.
And,
That's not a meal.
and I'll interject one thing and then I'll get out your way again. And
No,
maybe
go ahead.
some of it too is because I became vegetarian at 18.
Right.
And so what you're bringing up are super valid points. And some of the people who are saying this, they're not like Cheryl's grandma. Like I do think it's significantly harder for things like that. But some people are already vegan, or some, and I find that the people who are already vegan have this misconception that now they can't buy all their things in packages, so their life is hard. But you bring up a good point, so thank you, because for anyone who's listening, certainly if you're trying to transition to a plant-based way of eating from the standard American diet, that is a huge shift. And so I do not mean to make light of that. And me and the community are here to support you if you're going from vegan to whole food plant-based, or if you're going from standard American diet to vegan, whatever little transitions, we're still here for you, okay?
Yeah. And we're always in a transition. I think maybe for the rest of our lives of just trying to do what we're doing a little bit better with each passing week and month and year. And so if you are just transitioning to a whole foods plant-based diet, oil-free, and you're finding it overwhelming and difficult, I totally understand, because it's true that packaged foods have a convenience factor, and there's a whole way of cooking them that is a little bit different than cooking whole foods. I would encourage you, as you are making that transition, to go ahead and make it as convenient and easy for yourself as possible. Some ideas of how you can do that are buying frozen vegetables and frozen fruits, and buying the packages of already made rice, that are shelf stable, and you just stick them in the microwave. Simple things like just pasta that you boil. I'm sure, even if you weren't whole foods plant-based, you made pasta for a meal, and buying jarred sauce and whatever convenience items make it more doable for you, just do it. And it's okay. There's plenty of time to learn how to make beans in the Instant Pot from dry beans. And there's plenty of time to learn how to make rice, and all of that. But even things like, in the frozen section. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, there's no shame in using canned beans either. I mean, I know
Sure.
we all have different goals, and some of us are avoiding cans or different things like that. But one of my favorite things to make when I don't feel like cooking is I take a can of red kidney beans and I make red beans and steam some rice. And it's like, I think people underestimate what spices can do for stuff.
Totally. Yes. Yeah, we see that a lot. So, whatever it takes for you to feel like it's doable in an amount of time that's acceptable to you, that's fine. Frozen section, you can get, already chopped vegetables, already chopped onions, even, and garlic, and all this. I mean, we are in an age of convenience foods, so take advantage of it. You have plenty of time to figure out how to dice a clove of garlic or whatever. You have plenty of time to figure that out. But in the meantime, if you're feeling overwhelmed, taking advantage of the convenience items really does help.
I love that, and I say that too because I think sometimes I think it's great. We're all doing this for different reasons. In general, whole food plant-based people tend to be doing it for health reasons. Vegan people tend to be doing it for love of animals. Some people do either one of those for the environment. But as I'm finding as I get older, and like I got some tendonitis in my thumb from chopping things for a dehydrator class, that having something like a food processor or having no shame when you go and buy pre-cut butternut squash, onions, pre-shredded stuff. I think sometimes people think, well, that's not quite as perfect as if I went to the farmer's market, met the farmer, took this back, spent an hour doing all of these things. And I will tell you, I am the person who likes doing that, but even I can't do it all the time. And what's your favorite shortcut, Stacy, for you?
The Instant Pot, period. The Instant Pot is my favorite shortcut. I use the Instant Pot for every single starch that I make, any soup that I make. I look up a recipe and they're like, first simmer this and the this and the that, and then let it breathe. And I'm like, this thing ain't breathing. All of it's going in the Instant Pot. There will be no breathing. There will be no simmering. It's just going to have to work out because I am not a person who enjoys spending a ton of time in the kitchen. I'm not much of a cook, unfortunately. I come from my husband's family is full of amazing cooks and they are incredible. And I used to try really hard to be them for many years. And then I went, oh, I don't actually need to be because they do it and I can enjoy their incredible cooking. But I don't want to give very much time in my life, in my limited amount of free time, to being in the kitchen. So I throw everything in the Instant Pot. I use it multiple times a day. Today, I've already used it for oatmeal and soup. So that's my favorite shortcut. But as far as like a product, I really love riced cauliflower because I stick that in everything. Not in like, I don't put it in oatmeal. I have before, but I do put it in every soup, in every kind of like a marinara sauce or anything that I make. Riced cauliflower goes in just because it's easy. It adds some bulk to it, and my kids get some cauliflower. I get some cauliflower. That's always a good thing.
I love it. And I love it for times when, because I usually have some stuff frozen. So because I cook way more than any other human being who is a two-person family. And I do give away some stuff, but the freezer downstairs is always just like overflowing. But rice cauliflower is great because then if you have a little leftover stir fry, you have some leftover frozen chili, you can throw it over that. So like a lot of times I use it as a faux grain, which is kind of what people often do. But like I have a bolognese sauce that has like cauliflower, everything's just kind of I just put it through the food processor. Cauliflower, carrots, mushrooms, eggplant, all the things, and it looks all bulky. So I really love your idea of even just throwing some frozen riced cauliflower in there,
Mm-hmm.
and that's really going to make it look meaty and be a little more filling.
Yeah. Just remember, if you're using riced cauliflower, we do not want you replacing your starch with riced cauliflower. It will not fill you up and provide that satiety long term that we're looking for when we're looking at our starches.
And that's a great point. Like I would use it, like the reason I even mentioned chili, so then I have beans and carrots and maybe
Yeah.
even potatoes and mushrooms. So that would be, in that situation, that time I would look at the chili as more of my starch for that night. Would that seem okay would you give me a
Totally.
gold star or no for
You get a gold star for that for sure.
that?
That sounds like an excellent use of riced cauliflower.
But and I agree with you because I'm hearing some other people too. Here, I'll come back. That are again, and we've talked about this before. And Apple isn't here today, but Apple was kind of the beneficiary of your knowledge because we hear outside of here in the McDougall room sometimes that you want 50% starch, 50% vegetables. We've talked about that, and that is actually not correct. That's the minimum. So when we hear 50-50, we think that's the maximum, but it's the minimum, and that by adding more starch, some people get off a plateau.
Yes. Yeah. It's really true because then they're not chasing their hunger all day long and just eating and eating and eating and eating and eating. When you satisfy your hunger with starch, you can do so pretty quickly. I mean, I still eat very large volumes of food. So, I mean, I'm sure that some you guys would look at some of the stuff I eat and go, I can't even believe it. That girl does that. But yes, but if I'm sitting there trying to eat a salad, a green salad to like get full, it's never going to happen. And if it does happen, I'm hungry 10 minutes later. So I prioritize my starch and make sure that I'm always at least at that 50% mark.
I love that. And I believe, if I'm correct, you said typically you even eat 70% starch. I
I
believe you
do,
said.
but I always want to make sure that everybody understands I'm a very active person. And I think that part of it is because of that. I'm also in my early 40s. I recognize that sometimes it gets more challenging as we age. I've already seen that. But yes, but just because Stacy, I am usually at about 70%, does not mean that's going to work for you. And it's really trial and error. And so you'll figure it out for yourself. You just see how you do. And but never go under 50%, you guys. That's a recipe for disaster.
And that's perfect. And the reason I bring up 70% too, and thank you for clarifying it so well, is not that I think everyone needs to eat exactly like you do, but there are people out there that have 70% that it's working with their age and their metabolism and where, whatever
Yes,
part of their weight journey that they're at. And I think since we
definitely.
never hear that's
Hmm.
why, but I thank you for clarifying it more. Now, Mona has a question and says, I'm just curious as to how much starch, and she said in parentheses, potato, is too much for weight loss.
Hi, Mona. Great question. I can't tell you an answer though, because it's very individual. It's very person to person. So you can go off of the scale in this case. I know the scale is an imperfect tool. Most of us have a love hate or maybe just a hate hate relationship with the scale, but it is helpful when you're trying to gauge if you are in the sweet spot for weight loss or not. And, but I will tell you this potatoes, um, calorie density wise, if you ate nothing but potatoes all day, every day, you should still lose weight. So potatoes are not, as long as you're not doing what we all used to do, which is load them up with sour cream and butter and bacon bits and all that stuff. But if we're just talking about like plain potatoes or potatoes with salsa or whatever, you should be able to eat nothing but potatoes and continue to lose weight because the calorie density of potatoes is so low that you couldn't eat enough of them to erase your calorie deficit. Now, asterisk, if you are a major volume eater and you eat a lot more weight of food each day than the average person, it's possible that you would maintain and not lose. So that's why the addition of fruits and vegetables is so helpful for weight loss. Because what that does is it further dilutes the calorie density of your overall meal. So let me just give you a quick little example. And please bear in mind, I am not very good at math. So if I screw this up, I apologize.
You're better than
Okay.
me. I can't even remember how many meetings we had.
Well, let's see how this goes. This will be fun. Okay. So let's just say, just for the sake of argument, the potatoes are 400 calories per pound. Okay. Doesn't matter what kind. Let's say Yukon Gold. That could be wrong. It's just a nice round number that I think I can math with. Okay. So 400 calories per pound for potatoes. And if you eat what is usually considered like the higher end of calorie density that people consume over the day, most people consume around 3 to 5 pounds of food a day. But what matters more than that is that you as an individual consume the same poundage of food every day almost perfectly across the board. And that's what's so remarkable. And that's what gives calorie density, the principles of calorie density, the power that they have to help us lose weight. Because if you're eating, let's say you do eat 5 pounds of food a day, so you're on the higher end, right? If you eat 5 pounds of just potatoes a day, you're getting approximately 2,000 calories a day, which likely for you will keep you in weight maintenance, depending on your height, your age, your how much you weigh now, all that kind of stuff, okay? But let's say you decide, well, I'm going to go 50-50, right? We all try to do the 50-50. I'm using 50-50 because it's nice round numbers that I think I can math with, okay? So let's say instead of eating exclusively potatoes at 400 calories per pound, I also add in fruits and vegetables for an average with fruits and vegetables of 200 calories per pound. Okay? So if half of my food by visual volume is 200 calories per pound, fruits and vegetables, and half of my food by visual volume is potatoes at 400 calories per pound, then you average that ends up being an average of 300 calories per pound for everything that I eat all day long. So 300 calories per pound, if I eat 5 pounds of food, then I'm only consuming 1,500 calories in a day. And you can see how I am likely, most people are likely to lose weight consuming only 1,500 calories per pound, or I'm sorry, 1,500 calories for the day, as opposed to 2,000 calories for the day. That's how the principles and the magic of calorie density works to help you lose weight.
I love that. And the way you explained it is different than I've heard it before exactly. So it actually, like, even though I feel like I have a decent understanding, that gave me a multi-layered understanding so quickly. And
Cool.
I think one of the things too that I remember to add to what you said is just like when we sat down in the 12-day program, one of the first days, first it was kind of like, you're not that special that you're gaining all the weight, which is kind of nice to hear. It's the one time you want to hear you're not very special, and that you too can lose weight if that's something that you're trying to do, like I was. But also that, isn't it satiety level, that the thing that makes you feel most full and satiated is potato. So like when Mona said, how many potatoes can I eat and still lose weight? My first thought is, first I want to see exactly how many potatoes I can eat. Now I know some people, like you said, some people are more high volume eaters than others, and so that could be a game changer. But I'm thinking, if I had 4 baked potatoes, and I love a baked potato, and I will eat a plate of mashed potatoes. Like I love, because mashed potatoes are compliant, which is again why I think the starch solution is easy. If I feel poopy and I can make potatoes, I can put a little bit of non-dairy milk or not. Usually I don't. A little nutritional yeast, a little garlic powder, roasted garlic powder, and make a mushroom gravy. And if you make homemade oat milk, you don't even have to add any flour to your gravy. It just thickens up naturally. And that's my favorite comfort food. So even I don't think I could eat a plate of 4 big old potatoes mashed up. Maybe some days. But one of the things he was kind of mentioning is that it's harder to overeat when you are satiated and when your stomach is literally full. So I don't know if that.
Yeah, so satiety is the product of volume and weight of food in your stomach. And the things that make a food, but a food's properties to make a food voluminous. Is that the right word?
I like that word though. That's $10
To have
right there.
Look, voluminous. I've heard it on shampoo commercials, but I don't know if it applies to potatoes. Sorry. Someone will have to let us know. But for a food to be big and bulky and heavy, what usually gives it those properties are water and fiber. And that's the trick. That's why potatoes and rice and beans and corn and quinoa and cooked oatmeal and barley and couscous and all that good stuff. That's why those things are low in calorie density, because they're very high in water content and they're very high in fiber content. And so they also provide satiety. So they satisfy you. Now, you're right. And it is true that studies have shown that potatoes are the most satiating food on the planet, meaning the most people report the greatest amount of satiety from eating potatoes as opposed to other types of food like eggs, meat, what else is there? Pasta, any kind of food. Potatoes are the favorite for satiety, right? But I tell you what, I have people all the time who go, I could eat potatoes all day long and not be satisfied. Fine. Potatoes may not be your central starch of choice. You find what that is for you. And if it's a whole cooked, water-rich starch like the ones I just listed, then that's fine for that to be your starch.
I love that. And sometimes I notice that Cheryl likes rice more than potatoes. I sometimes get a little more drawn to rice. So whatever she wants, I'm always good with. So Diana does have a question. Is there a better potato choice? Sweet, gold, russet, etc. Is there like a gold standard of potato that we should be eating?
Absolutely. There is. Everybody lean in. The potato that I want you to eat is the one that you enjoy.
I love that.
I'm not joking. I'm not being cute. I want you to eat the potatoes that you enjoy. If you do not like sweet potatoes, for goodness sake, do not buy a sweet potato. And vice versa. If you don't like yellow potatoes, I hear this all the time. People are like, I don't even like white potatoes. Fine. You never need to eat a white potato for the rest of your life. Doesn't matter. It's really true. Whatever you enjoy and will eat and can continue to eat for the rest of your life, or, day after day, that's what you need to be choosing. No, there is not a gold standard. There's not one that's better than another. Now, of course, there's always these, scales that are like, oh, well, bite for bite, sweet potatoes are more nutrient dense than white potatoes. I've heard the thing about, the more colorful a potato is, the more nutrient dense it is. Right. But what if I don't like purple potatoes? I'm not going to be able to sustain this way of eating long term if I'm not enjoying my food. So you've got to have the long game in mind, not just what's going to make me the healthiest at this moment right here. Because if you, let's say, for example, you decide you're going to eat purple potatoes, purple flesh, purple skin, purple everything, those ones. Some people love them. I don't like them. I don't. I like the Japanese sweet potato with the like yellow or white insides. Love those. Okay, but let's say I decided I want to be the healthiest I can possibly be, so I'm only eating purple potatoes. And then I eat them for 2.5 days and I'm ready to puke and I hate my life and I'm not having fun. It is so much more likely that I'm just going to go, forget it. I want potato chips, or I want a, Impossible Burger from Burger King or something like that, because it's not going to be sustainable if you're not enjoying it. So please kind of just focus on making this sustainable long term by choosing foods that you truly enjoy.
I love that. And I personally, and this is just me, I love all the potatoes. There's a weird colored potato I've never tried. It is going in my mouth. But I also have 80 bazillion spice blends. So if I see a spice blend I've never had at Lidl's or Aldi's, they come home with me, potatoes. are like that. But one of the things I think that gets misconstrued about the starch solution in general is that therefore it's going to be, I have to eat these 6 things, or I have to do this on this sort of schedule. And one of the reasons that I often say it's easy is I guess maybe easy isn't the correct word, but flexible is. And and I like that, because if I want to have like, and actually a couple of months ago, I just was burnt out from traveling and not doing super well. And I had found some white sweet potatoes, Hannah sweet yams that we never get here. So I bought just a crap ton of them, and I cooked up like 7 of them, and I ate them for 3 days. I cooked them and I ate them from the fridge for 3 days, which is not a normal thing for me, but it was nourishing. It was during the summer, so the cool was very soothing. It just worked out really well for me, and I didn't feel like super guilty. So like if it had gone on for 3 months at that point, I would have needed another vegetable of some sort, So I was kind of like, pushing it to an extreme, but I was full. I started feeling better. I didn't have to think about food, and someone just asked in my heartbeat group. A couple of people are going to be doing the 12-day program. I'll switch back on so that I'm not just a voice behind you. Stacy doesn't see when I switch the view out. But someone said, what things would I tell them? What would help them prepare for the 12 days? And what I said was, go ahead and grocery shop, cook up a batch of rice, cook up some potatoes, and get some frozen vegetables so that you don't have to feel like you're watching this stuff all day and cooking. Because I was convincing Cheryl. So I was chefing out the wazoo. So like I was making mashed potatoes with roasted garlic mushroom gravy and, all these different things. And it was exhausting. But if you just have some food, and I feel like that's a good thing to have anyhow. Like if I know I'm going to have a busy week, or I'm starting to feel like I'm coming down with a cold, we try to go ahead and I cook up little potatoes, because if I have little potatoes, I can dip them in something and eat them. And, in the summer more than the winter, or I can just throw them in the air fryer, crisp them up a little bit, and they're done. Same thing if you have an already done potato, you can cut it into fries. You can do all the different things. What would you say if someone wanted to know what's the best way to prep, or what few things they could do to make their 12-day experience easier to absorb?
That's a great question. I think having your starch staples always on hand and always ready is number one. So, what that looks like for me is I cook large batches of oatmeal all at once for the week. Of course, I do it in the Instant Pot. And I said
Love
for the
it.
week, but it really only lasts me a couple days. I eat a ton of oatmeal. That's just my confession. I love oatmeal. I eat it for breakfast 100% of the time, sometimes for a snack, sometimes for dessert. I mean, I just eat it all the time. So it'll last me a few days when I cook it in the Instant Pot. But I always have oatmeal in my fridge ready to go. I always have a soup in my fridge ready to go. I think I shared this with you guys that I eat pretty simply. So I eat oatmeal with fruit every day for breakfast. I eat some kind of bean and vegetable soup, for lunch. The one that I'm most obsessed with is Mary's split pea soup, the one with the
Oh,
barley and the baby lima beans. Oh, so good. I just made a new batch today. And so I always have a batch of soup in the fridge. And then I always have both Yukon Gold potatoes cooked in the fridge, ready to go. And the sweet potatoes, the Japanese sweet potatoes, the ones that I think Kathy's talking about that she loves too, the purplish flesh. I'm sorry, purplish skin, and then the white yellow
yeah.
flesh.
The
And I
Hannah
always have
yams are
those.
like white on the outside and white yellowish
Yep.
on the inside. But and that's another thing I just would throw out there from my own personal experience. There are a lot of kinds of sweet potatoes and regular potatoes. Chances are good that you would find one out of all the ones. You can find a lot of different
Yeah.
sweet potatoes at the Asian market quite cheaply to try.
Mm-hmm. Yes. But I would also say having pantry staples on hand too. I mean, the batch cooking is one thing for sure. I find that honestly, that's almost a linear indicator of success is people who batch cook, batch prepare starches are far more successful than people who choose not to and kind of want to wing it meal to meal. Okay. The other one is pantry staples. So I have no problem now at this point cooking up rice or beans or pasta or oatmeal from dry in the Instant Pot. And I can do it very quickly. I know exactly how to do it and what the settings are and all that stuff. But I still have canned beans. I still have, like I said, those shelf stable rice packages. I still have a tube of polenta in there that's shelf stable that I can easily cut up and use. And I still have instant oatmeal packets because I know those days are going to come that I didn't plan perfectly and I didn't batch cook and I need something to eat like now. And I want to prevent hanger because once you get hangry, your rational decision making goes out the window. Like, number one, yes. And it's much more likely that you're going to make a decision that you regret. So I always have those pantry staples on hand as well.
I love that because that is true. That is when, if we're not prepared, that is almost always when the worst of the worst is going to creep in, or what can we do to do this quick? And so we try to have a few things that we could just heat up. That's why I love the freezer too. But I have I have canned beans. I I have frozen rice because one day I'll have the packets. Cheryl really wants the packets, but I'm just trying not to. And I would rather just make it and freeze it. But one day we'll have them, probably even this month, just to have them in there for kinds of emergencies and things like that. So I think those are all super great things and all great things that we can use during this kind of transitional holiday period, which can be a little iffy in a lot of ways for people. Now, Anna has a request for you. Can Stacy please talk about sweet snacks? I eat a lot of fruit, probably too much, and I think I like the taste of sweet better than savory. But maybe talk about some sweet that's okay too.
Well, it depends on what your goals are, as always. So, if assuming, Anna, that you're trying to lose weight, just because most of us are, then you do really want to stick with fruit in terms of a sweet snack. That really is your best bet. You could do, like I said, oatmeal with fruit, but really fruit is going to be the sweet element from a weight loss perspective. It's going to be your best bet. The other issue is that a lot of people who are trying to transition away from the more calorie dense or the more processed things like, cakes and cookies and brownies and that kind of thing, they struggle. They go, fruit is never going to be a brownie. And it's true. Like, it's a different thing. It's because, but those brownies being so calorie and sugar dense, like, you get a real good dopamine hit, even from the healthy ones, all the ones that Kathy has taught you guys to make that are totally compliant. But the issue with them is that they're calorie dense. And so they will stall or even stop your weight loss. So I would say stick with fruit until you've given your brain seriously the opportunity to kind of forget the appeal of those other things. People struggle and struggle and struggle because they keep dipping back into those more calorie dense items and they keep trying to recreate their favorite things. Like, I'm just going to recreate, a cake here. I'm going to make a mug cake that's totally compliant, but again, calorie dense. And the more you look to those types of things to satisfy that sweet tooth, the longer you'll stay in that cycle of seeking out things like that when you do want something sweet. So stick with fruit. I promise you'll get used to it to where that's really all you want. And that's the sweetness level that satisfies you.
One thing that we've done, because Cheryl was never a big fruit eater, so I've always loved fruits and berries, and she is obsessed with grapes right now. But here's the thing, we're not buying, there's like the grapes and then the grapes that cost $2 more. Get the grapes that cost $2 or $3 more. They're very, very sweet, and they're closer to candy. Like the cotton candy grapes are not as sweet as these like gumdrop grape. Like we've been trying a bunch of different ones. So certainly it's not saying that you can never eat just the regular grapes, but I find when I'm having a serious sugar, like I want dessert, and also in my mind, and I do this especially when I eat oranges. So I cut the ends off and then I cut them in slices to get that little middle part out, and then we eat them like as if we were at the Chinese restaurant. So already you get a little bit of aesthetic with that, and I do that and I bring it and we eat them while we're watching TV. And then that taste, and remind yourself how much better that tastes than that orange slice candy you used to eat. Because it's nowhere near. It's like this orange is amazing. And go ahead and, maybe try to get things that are more seasonally or more in season where you are, instead of getting strawberries from, I don't know, Argentina or Australia or wherever. If you get something local, that means it probably stayed on the vine a little bit longer and had time to develop those sugars, quite honestly. And so like we're switching now again. Like we found some more grapes, but grape season is going to be, it's not going to work for all 12 months for us. I don't know if you've ever thought about it that way. I literally go, ooh, this is way better than candy, and it feels that way to me.
Absolutely, yes. Another thing is grapes freeze really well. So if you are the end of the season and they're at a reasonable price still and they're in season, go ahead and buy them up. Buy them up and wash them and stick them in your freezer. And the nice thing about frozen grapes is it also slows you down. You eat them frozen. And so it feels like this very decadent, one or two little grapes. And you always have to ask yourself on this note, why you're eating. If you're eating because you're having a little sweet tooth and you just need a little bite of something sweet, well, then a grape or two out of the freezer will do. But if you're hungry, I would not recommend that you go for fruit, only because fruit is not starch. Now, bananas are a little starchy, but most fruit is not starch containing. And so that fruit, while it will taste wonderful, it's not likely to fill you and sustain you the way a starch would. So if you're really, truly hungry, I would say start with a starch. And that's why I suggest eating something like oatmeal with, some fruit and maybe a tiny little drizzle of, little sprinkle of brown sugar or something like that. And let that be your dessert if you're hungry.
I like that. And we do oatmeal sometimes too. Like for me, sometimes I do just need, like, sometimes we'll split an orange, or if the oranges are small, we'll do 2 oranges. And it's such a treat, but I'm certainly not going to get full. And I wanted to just share with everybody. So I make plain steel cut oats. I use the slow cooker. It doesn't matter. You can use the Instant Pot. And it's like 1 cup of oats to 4 cups of water. I do it because we eat sometimes we'll eat hours apart in the morning. Cheryl likes her oatmeal plain with a little brown sugar. And can you guess, I'm not the plain gal in the house. So like sometimes I will stir in some blueberries, even frozen blueberries, and lemon zest is delightful. But I made a gingerbread oatmeal. So literally I had a bowl of cooked oats. I took probably about a half a teaspoon of molasses, along with a little bit of dark brown sugar. You could use whatever, you could use dates, or I'm just trying to make it like gingerbread. Some dry ginger, a little bit of allspice, a little bit of cloves, a little bit of cinnamon, and a little bit of nutmeg. And it was magical. And it took me, the longest thing was remembering where I put the molasses. So I think that might have taken me 2 whole minutes. So, and if you've got pumpkin pie spice and you have part of a cooked sweet potato, in the bowl you're going to put the oatmeal, heat up some of that sweet potato in the microwave, sprinkle some of that, and you have sweet potato pie oatmeal. And all of that is fine.
You are the fanciest person I know. I just decided. I love it. I wish I lived with y'all. You guys should just talk very seriously about having Stacy move in. Because I want someone to make that for me. I am not willing to do it myself, but I would willingly eat all of it.
Well, and what I need to do when I make spices next time, I'll ship you a couple of things. But like you can even get pumpkin pie spice at Trader Joe's and just put
I have it. I have the Trader Joe's one. Yeah.
Well, maybe what we need to do, so you meet with me once a month to make sure I'm on the starch solution thing, and I can meet with you once a month and give you oatmeal ideas.
Love it. I'm
Because
in.
I'm there for you. But I
Thank
also wrote a
you.
whole book. I used to have 50 different oatmeals on my blog. I've taken them down since then. But like, so I've made hummingbird cake oatmeal. I've made
Mm.
every oatmeal humanly possible. And I love sweets too. So, and especially I'm a wake up in the morning and have something sweet most of the time. I've been on a big grit kick lately. So I've been making cheesy grits with my nutritional yeast and a little bit of garlic powder. But to take oatmeal and replace really, and I would like to say this too. So we're doing 90 to 95% McDougall. That means since July, I've had a couple of muffins. And you know what? They weren't as tasty as my gingerbread oats. So let me tell you that. And sometimes it'll be like, ooh, I'm having my exciting vegan muffin and I'm all ready, and all I taste is oil. And it's not nice. And that's one of the things that we talk about sometimes when it's just me and Cheryl is sometimes when we do try some other things, it's a real letdown. And it makes that orange that tastes like candy mean all the more. And I think it's hard to conceptualize what that's going to be for you. And I think some people just want plain oatmeal like Cheryl, and that is super valid. But I want a beautiful holiday treat this morning, right? So I'm going to do it up. But like doing it up took me 3 seconds. And it's okay to kind of experiment. And who are you? If you haven't done this yet, who are you when you eat oatmeal every day? Because you don't know. I've had a friend who was like, well, I can't eat as much oatmeal as you do because we split that cup in 4 cups of water. Like it is this bowl full. So it's a lot of oatmeal when we eat it. I'm not eating when I see those little packets like that you can get. We were looking for vacation and I'm like, that's going to keep me full for like 5 minutes. There's no way I'm going to do that. But I didn't think I could eat that much oatmeal. And you may not see it now. And you may be in a mindset of, I can't eat a lot, which is not a starch solution mindset, I think. And
Yeah. No,
kind
you're
of
right.
kind of going on to the Mona, who was mentioning before, I'm not getting anywhere near 2,000 calories. I may do 1,200 calories, mostly slightly under. Am I making a mistake there?
Yes. Mona, in love, I'm going to say your mistake is counting your calories because it doesn't matter because your body tells you how many calories you need. So when you're eating this way, okay? So the reason why all of us in America and in the Western world in general struggle with weight is because the foods that are available to us everywhere we turn are far too high in calorie density. These foods that we're talking about are natural whole plant foods that are nice and low in calorie density, and they're also not hyper palatable and chock full of salt, oil, and sugar. And so they will keep you thin and trim as long as you're listening to your body's cues, your hunger and fullness cues. So I can't tell you, Mona, see, this is where I get, I really struggle with advice, giving you guys advice because, for you, 1,200 calories may be enough. And the way that you'll know is because you're satisfied and you're able to move on with your life and you're not chronically hungry, you know? But I know this, I know that I eat more than that. Not because I count it or measure or weigh anything, but because unfortunately I've been on a diet since I was like 13 years old. And so I know approximately how many calories are in most things. And I can sort of sit there and go, yeah, I'm probably at around this many calories a day. But even at levels that I was really surprised I could lose weight on, you know, higher calories than I ever was told on any other diet that I could eat, I was losing weight. And it's because I started really getting in tune with my hunger and fullness cues and honoring those and listening to my body while also, and this is key, choosing the right foods. Your hunger and fullness cues are trustworthy, valid, and reliable unless you are eating high calorie density processed foods that, for example, like if I were to sit here and spend the whole day listening to my hunger cues and answering with peanut butter, I would probably consume like 6,000 calories. Why? Because peanut butter is a processed, high calorie density food that it may be perfectly healthy in small amounts, but I can't eat just peanut butter and maintain or lose weight. But if we're talking about potatoes, because of their volume and their weight and their low calorie density, you will lose weight as long as you're honoring those hunger and fullness cues.
That's brilliant. I know Mona comes from a past where she was on Weight Watchers at a young
Mm-hmm.
age. Um, and I think to me, and actually, big time to me, one of the benefits of doing the starch solution is not counting calories. I have a friend here, I'll just switch back. And you guys have seen her, Katya Gorbachev, who is a power lifter. She's an award-winning vegan power lifter, and she's awesome. And she counts macros and things like that because that's what works for her, and that's what works for her being a weightlifter. But we had a show, and she's like, "Well, why don't you want to count, or why don't you want to count macros?" Because I was like, "I don't want to do it," and she's like, "Well, why?" And I'm like, "Because it's horrible, and I don't want. I do a lot in my day. I do more than a lot of people do in a day sometimes. And so the idea of doing something I hate 3 times a day minimum is too much for me. So like if I hated potatoes, if I hated vegetables, maybe this would be hard. But like to me, I'm like, I could have mashed potatoes and I can steam some vegetables. That sounds lovely to me. I could do that every day forever. And so going back to you saying find what you do like, but to me it's there's certain things that I just won't do. And I hope that I never have to, for any kind of medical reason in the future, have to count stuff because to me it's a deal breaker. And it's so much easier
Kathy,
not to.
oh, yeah, absolutely. So let me just give you this perspective. So I get a lot of patients that come in and go through the McDougall program. And right at the beginning of the program, I inform them that I would like them not to weigh or measure their food. And half the people are like, sweet, I've been waiting all my life to hear that. And the other half are like, oh gosh, like, won't the world end, because there's this illusion of control. Well, if I'm counting and I'm accountable for the weight and measurement of my calories, then I know I'm doing it right. Then I'll know that I'm in a calorie deficit. The problem is, first of all, your body doesn't burn the same number of calories every day. So when somebody comes up with like a 1,200 or 1,500 calorie count for you and tells you, okay, and these services like MyFitnessPal and stuff that spit out, this is how many you need to have. They're not taking into account that your needs change on a day-to-day basis based on a million different things. And so it's misguided. Like the idea of a calorie target is misguided, and it's based on a faulty presumption that you need the same thing day to day. That's number one. Number two is it completely takes absolutely every bit of power away from the amazing inborn drives that you have to keep you alive and keep you healthy. And by the way, keep you trim. Your body doesn't want to be overweight. No, it's not good. Your body, your brain and your body know that you are much more likely to survive if you're a healthy weight. We know that overweight and obesity leads to a great sharp increase in your risk of heart disease and diabetes and autoimmune illnesses and cancer and all of the things, right? So your body's going to try to get you to a healthy weight, but unfortunately, It can only do that if it's given the right tools, if it's given the right fuel, the right food. And our environment is full of the wrong foods. And so that's why most of us don't lose weight when we try to. But when you take away someone's ability to listen to their body and honor their hunger and fullness cues, you're basically saying, no, this little calculator that we came up with to tell you how many calories you need is far more sophisticated than your amazingly designed human body that has the drives that you need to survive. It would be, and I think I've probably shared this here before, but this is my favorite illustration is, all right, let's say you're sitting around and all of a sudden you need to pee, right? I got to pee. You don't sit there and judge it. Like, you're not sitting there going like, well, why should I have to pee? I peed, an hour and a half ago, and I really should only need to pee every 2 hours. And so I'm going to sit here and wait half an hour to make sure that I'm not peeing any more frequently than every 2 hours. Of course not. No. Now, you may judge it. You may go, geez, this is weird. I peed 30 minutes ago. But you're doing that as you walk to the bathroom because you're honoring that drive, even if you don't understand it, even if you think it's weird or out of time, it doesn't make sense. And that is a totally natural drive, innate in you as a human for your survival, exactly the same way as your drive to breathe, exactly in the same way as your drive to sleep and your drive to eat. Why should we honor one and not the other? Okay? If you are sleepy, go to sleep. That's another problem we have is we want to save ourselves from our drive to sleep. Oh, I better drink some more caffeine. I better get up and run on the treadmill. I better whatever thing you do to stay awake. When ultimately, yes, occasionally we do actually have to stay awake to be like functioning members of society. But what our body is telling us is we're not getting enough sleep and we need to sleep. Okay. So anyway, all that to say, I just really, I respect the fact that you said of this bodybuilding gal who's come on before, you said she's doing that because it works for her. If I had her here to talk to me right now, I would challenge that. I would challenge, is it really working for her? Because I actually think that even if you're a bodybuilder, your body will demand more calories. Your body will demand more food because you're burning more calories. And so even someone in that position, even an elite athlete, can trust their hunger and fullness cues.
Interesting. And see, I'm so far from that I just don't even I don't dip a toe in there.
Yeah.
But I think that's really interesting. And I just checked through and I'm not seeing a lot of questions. So if anybody's a last minute question, because I know that we're 5 minutes over and we're trying to be very respectful of Stacy's time, you can ask questions. If you're watching this as a replay, if you ask questions, sometimes Stacy peeps back in. And if you're really nice, she'll answer you. And all this has just been so awesome. And I really, as always, everyone just appreciates you being here. And I certainly appreciate you being here. And I think you're just so clear about things. I think you cut through a lot of the noise, and that's very helpful. And I think that can be very helpful for the rest of this year. And do you have anything else you want to say? And if you're not sure, do you have a top couple of holiday tips?
Oh, okay. Well, first of all, I do want to say thank you so much for having me again, Kathy. I love being on this channel. My family loves you and Cheryl so much. They're like, they're amazing. They're the best ladies. I'm like, yes, they truly are. And it's such a delight and an honor to be here. It's my privilege to be with you all. And thank you all for your questions and for listening. My top holiday tips are these. One, visualizing how you're going to feel at the end of the day if you make one decision as opposed to another. So what that looks like for me is, let's say I'm going into a holiday meal and I know there's going to be a bunch of like really indulgent foods there, and I may want to partake in some of them or I may not. One thing I'll do is I'll sit there and I'll just take a minute to visualize. Okay, if I do say, decide I'm going to have a couple pieces of pie over the course of the day. How will I feel at the end of the day? And I'll sit there and I'll just visualize the whole thing. And then I'll go, okay, if I don't have the pie, how will I feel at the end of the day? Visualize the whole thing. And then I make my choice based on that. Because so often we're making our choice based on not really fleshing out what the consequence of that choice is. In the moment I go, I love pie. I'm going to be happy if I eat pie. We've all been there. It's like, ooh, that'll make me feel so happy. But we're not thinking like, oh, but also I'm going to have indigestion and a headache and I'm going to feel bad about myself and I'm going to be up on the scale and that's going to be frustrating. And I'm going to have to feel like I'm starting from square one. It's like, is it worth all that? No. Now, I am not telling you not to have pie. In fact, I think my second strategy that I want to give you for the holidays is really my favorite one, which is minimize the damage and choose well and be strong when you can be, knowing that there are going to be other things there that are special once a year or even less frequent indulgences. And so, if I know my mother-in-law makes amazing desserts, okay? And so let's say, and my sister-in-law does too. I'm like surrounded by amazing dessert makers. It's a real problem. It's also a huge blessing. But if I know, hey, Elizabeth's, cake is coming, it's easier for me to not indulge in, a super oily thing, some other option that's there presented to me because I know that I want that. And I also know if I have both, that's going to be too much. So just choosing and really prioritizing the things that are special once a year or, once every other year items that are special. I've told you, I don't know if I've told you guys this before, but I've told my patients this. At Halloween, I have no problem passing up Halloween candy. Why? Because I won't be tricked. Halloween candy is nothing but regular candy with a black and orange wrapper on it. It's the same darn thing. And I can have a Snickers bar anytime I want. Now, do I? I try not to, right? I almost never have one. But it's out of principle at Halloween. I go, I'm just not going to eat Halloween candy because it's not special. Whereas if on my birthday, my sister-in-law is going to make me a cake, I know that's special. And so I will indulge in that. But I'm not going to have like a Hostess Ho-Ho or something like that that's available, 365 days a year. So those are my two pieces of advice. My third thing I want to say is everybody enjoy your holidays, and whatever you do choose or don't choose, it is not a moral failing to, fudge a little bit on your diet. You are still a beautiful person worthy of love and respect. And so please be kind to yourself and show yourself self-love and go, the holidays come around once a year and it's about to be January and things are about to get a lot easier for you. So it is okay, whatever choice you decide to make. Whatever you do, enjoy it.
I love that. And I will only add one thing to that is that if you are looking at a pie and you're like, doing the pie thing, I want you to ask yourself a third question. How can I make my oatmeal taste like this pie? Because I can.
You've got to do that. You've got to do a whole show about pie flavored
oatmeals because I've made add cocoa in and so every once in a while, because we're not doing nuts right now because we're still, trying to release some weight. Even though basically our goal for December is not to gain any weight, but I've lost a little bit. But so and with nuts, when I do nuts, so I'll take 2 or 3 pecans and you mince the bejesus out of them, and they're tiny. They're like little pecan dust, and it tastes just as good. You can spread it all over that instead of having 3 bites of pecan that are whole. And so you could do that with a little bit of even maple syrup, a little bit of cinnamon in there. You got pumpkin pie oatmeal.
Brilliant.
So
I love it.
Yeah. And if you guys are like, I want to know how to make X pie, well, y'all need to email me at kathyhester@gmail.com. And who knows, maybe that will be the new pie flavored oatmeal ebook next year. I'm looking to do a couple of things. So you guys tell me.
Do you have a pecan pie flavored oatmeal yet?
No, but I think that would be pretty close. Pecan dust. I would do whatever your sweeteners, you could do, I would add a little bit of molasses in there. I think just to have a little bit of molasses. So like, and I'm really talking about half a teaspoon for a regular size. If you're doing Kathy and I suspect Stacy sized bowls of oatmeal, you might want to do a whole teaspoon. Molasses isn't that amount of molasses isn't really going to bother you. If you're using a little bit of other sugar too, it's not going to throw it way off. I would add a little bit of cinnamon in there, which you wouldn't necessarily expect, but that's going to give you more of that pie sort of taste. And Stacy, since you are in maintenance mode, you probably could just roughly chop up pecans, whereas I will be having pecan dust on mine. But three or four pecans goes a long way. It's amazing. There is one quick question if you have time.
Yeah.
Okay. Jeremy, who's in the Chapel Hill Plant Pod with us, says how much weight fluctuation is too much? Is that I haven't heard that talked about.
This is just going to be my opinion. I think a range of 5 pounds, like your goal, and then 2 pounds on either side is a really good range. If you're fluctuating more than that, it's probably a matter of falling completely off the wagon and then getting completely on and then falling completely off, which we're trying to prevent because it's just really hard to go through life like that. So I think the 5 pound range is really a really nice, graceful buffer on either side of your goal.
That's perfect. And that gives us a little concrete thing to go on. And Stacy, I hope you have the very, very best holidays.
Thank you. You too, Kathy. And happy holidays to everybody out there. Thanks again for being with us.
And you guys have an amazing holiday. Know that Cheryl and I are going to come on and do some lives. It's probably going to be closer to the weekend. We will at least go live on Christmas Eve and Christmas Day. Probably before then, we're probably also going to try and go live on Christmas Eve. I don't know if it's going to be the day or night, and New Year's Day, so that we can gather as a community and we can really just have some wonderful times together is the goal. All right, you guys, have an amazing rest of your day. I'll see a lot of you over in Kathy's Cooking Club tonight. Don't forget, it's a little later tonight. It's at 6 p.m. Log into your account on ThriveCart and then go to the milk pulp class, and the YouTube link is right there. Okay, if you have some questions, you can email Cheryl at support@healthyslowcooking.com or me at kathyhester@gmail.com. Have an amazing time, and we'll talk to you